going to become an annual event, Wesley Chapel History Fair. We're very delighted this evening that we have a number of folks on our panel who have direct connections to this area. And it all kind of started with Miss Madonna Wise and her wonderful chronicle of Wesley Chapel. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at it, I would certainly recommend it. It's full of wonderful photographs of Wesley Chapel area dating back
to the 1840s.
1840s, yes. And so, without further ado, because I don't want to get in their way, I want to introduce our panel this evening and then turn it over to them and let them be the stars of this show. So, first person here on our panel is Madonna Wise. She's going to tell you all about her research and the book that she's done. Sitting next to her is Stephanie Bracknell Black. She's going to talk a little bit about her legendary grandfather, Lonnie Tucker, and I've been hearing lots of really good stories about him already this evening. Next to her is Quinn Porter Miller, and she is going to talk about her grandfather, James Wiregrass Porter, and if you recognize that there's a connection to this campus, you're absolutely right. Fortunately, we had the land for this donated by the Porter family, and forever grateful for that as well. On the other side of the podium, we have Mr. J. Thomas Touchton from the Tampa History Center. Has anyone here visited the History Center? It is fabulous. I love that place. So if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you to go. And then last but not least, certainly, is Angelo Lorano, and he is a local librarian with a wealth of information as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Madonna and let her get going.
Thank you so very much for coming this evening. I so appreciate the Pasco Hernando community, the State College, hosting this event. And I want to thank Amani Escuel and Sonia Thorne. They were just so wonderful when I kind of came up with this idea. And we wanted it to be a history fair. So Amani came up with the idea of let's make it an ongoing event. So I'm really excited. I see many historians in the audience, and I want to first tell you that I'm not an expert. I believe that history is interpretation. So particularly in this period of time where we don't have a lot of really strong chronicled history, we rely pretty strongly on family history. If you know me, you know I like stories. So I tried to embed as many stories as I could. I'm going to start out with a PowerPoint, and I hope somebody will just give me the hook when my time is up. Here we go. It is when Arcadia Publishing asked me to do a book on Wesley Chapel, I have to be perfectly honest with you and say, I said I don't think there's any history. You should all go. You should all kind of groan. But I will tell you that it is a cohesive community. I have rarely seen, even in my research on Dade City, which is such a nuclear community, I've rarely seen families that cared so much about each other. And here are just some examples. This is the Stanley family, Barnes family, Wells family, and Porter family. Just look at that. And I found these kind of pictures everywhere. The interesting thing about Wesley Chapel, and I think most of you know this, is there's very little of a nucleus of a town, which makes it difficult to tell the story. But I found that so much revolved around the general stores. This is the Hills grocery store, which Zephyr Hills may claim, because it's actually on the Island Boulevard 54 area, but I think all of the Wesley Chapel people frequented this location, which opened in the 1920s. I did learn that there were 4 general stores over time. The Harry Aries store was out by the interstate where the Honda dealer is right now, and it was followed by the Jesse Stanley General Store, which was right across from Saddlebrook. Then that was followed by the Delbert and Ella Mae Wells store. Oh my goodness, did I hear stories about them in music. They were right across from the Double Branch Church on 54. And also the Pasco Cooper store, which was on Curley Road, on County Road 54. Okay, so now you're going to hear from some of the actual people. Wanted to mention that the historical preservation sign was placed in 2001, and 3 people that are extraordinary historians were involved in that. Michael Poyet, who I believe to be the consummate historian at Wesley Chapel, Eddie Herman, and Scott Black, who was the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee for many years. And here we go.
The Wesley Chapel community was just a wonderful place to be. It had some good people.
Just like any other small community, you're just about kin to everyone. Because the dating scene back then, years ago, was limited to the small communities, and that's where we're kin to the Smiths, the Gillets, now they call them the Gillettes, but the Boyets, all of us are all intermingled.
We were all one another's friend, our kin.
We stick together as family. I mean, we depend on each other, and that's where a lot of the sawmills went on, the turpentine stills, the gator hunting, and the moonshine making, and they just didn't meet a stranger. They helped each other and helped the communities too.
If there was a situation going on in your family and there were kids, you were taken to somebody else's house, or they come and babysat you and stayed in your house, and they became your parent as long as they were responsible.
So boundaries didn't matter, it was the community that mattered.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was blown away at the deep roots. I mean, there's been some controversy in terms of exactly where Wesley Chapel is, and I think that might be the age-old question. But I will tell you, it's instrumental in studying this history, not to be really detailed, but Pasco County did not come into existence until 1887. We were part of Hernando County and Citrus County. And so in that period of time when Wesley Chapel was named, and it wasn't back to the 1840s, it was actually known as Godwin and a variety of other names as well. But you had to go to Brooksville to get a marriage license. You pretty much had to go to Brooksville. That was the county seat. And so when it became its own unique county, we were, and I say we because I live in Zephyr Hills, but I sort of feel like I've been adopted. We were precinct 4. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go. I found this map. Actually, my husband had it stored away in some real estate things, but it was a 1975 planning map. And I've singled out the square that was Wesley Chapel. And that is all identified as agricultural and transitional land. And how many of you in here remember the road to nowhere and the isolated Highway 54? Right. It's hard to fathom now, the difference. We were really fortunate. Ted Williams was helpful in this, as well as his assistant Mark Gallo. He's retired, but he introduced me to Mark Gallo. We found the 1879 range map, which was really conclusive. And it shows the settlers in 1879 here. And from this, we were able to put together some really important things. And here are my favorite people. You gotta have a few favorites. Oh, Bill, how did you come up with this, you and Ruth? My goodness.
From memory? Just from memory, because I've never seen a map anyway that would point out any of the places like it. And